Hi, I'm Jonas from Amok Equipment. Let's talk about our new lightweight tarps released in 2025, Skjold 10 and Skjold 13 in our new dark green color that a lot of you guys have asked for. In this video, we'll talk about all the details and help you decide which one is right for you. Firstly, let's talk about what the tarps have in common. So the fabric is the same for both tarps. It's a 15 denier double ripstop nylon that has been siliconized on both sides. It has a water head or a hydrostatic head of 3000 millimeters, which means the fabric itself is really waterproof. We went with siliconized fabrics because it lasts longer than PU coated fabrics. PU coated fabrics are fabrics that have a thin rubber layer on the backside, and after a while this can start to peel off or become brittle, whereas the siliconized fabrics tend to last longer. They have a better tearing strength and physical properties, and the siliconized fabrics are a lot easier to stuff into your stuff sack. You don't have to fold them or roll them up nicely, which we really like. And it's also lightweight. It's a bit more expensive, but we feel that it's well worth the added cost. The only downside to using siliconized fabrics is that it's very hard to seam seal at the factory. You cannot use regular seam tapes on it. So that means the weak point in terms of waterproofness will always be the seams where you have stitching going through the fabrics. So the main seams, you'll have 4 layers of fabric, and we use a special sewing technique and sewing thread so that the seams are considered waterproof, but in a super heavy rainstorm you might see a few droplets in some of the stitches. This is completely normal, and in 90% of the cases there's no need to do anything about it, but some people prefer to make sure that the seam is 100% waterproof. In that case, you'll take a small tube of silicone and add a thin layer of silicone along the seam, also referred to as seam sealing. We have opted for now to add the seam sealing kit along with all the tarps, so if you want to do that, you are free to do so. We'll post a video on the details on how to do it below. Now, let's talk about the footprint or shape of the tarp. So for both the Skjold 10, which you see here, and the Skjold 13, the shape is roughly similar, so the 13 is just scaled up and larger. Both tarps are designed here in Norway with our Draumr hammocks in mind. They are longer at the foot end or the front end, giving you extra coverage exactly where you need it. But you can also rotate the tarps 90 degrees so that you can use them with any kind of conventional hammock, like a gathered end hammock, similar to our Seil XL, a Ticket to the Moon, or a Hennessy hammock, for example. Additionally, the tarp has a catenary cut along the edges, which helps stretch out the fabric, and it helps with water shedding, and you avoid sagging when the tarp gets wet. Now let's talk about the corner design. In all our corners you'll find this 210 denier high strength nylon fabric with a Dyneema reinforcement along the ripstop pattern here. This helps spread out the load from the corners where you'll have most of the tension acting on the tarp, so that you don't have any high stress points which can lead to tears or breaks in the fabric. At the end of the corner reinforcement, you have a Hypalon piece that's a laser cut, which holds our adjustment buckles and our new silicone fastener hardware. You also have a small hole that you can put your tarp poles into, or any kind of branch or something like that, to lift up the corners if you want to. A quick word on the guylines. The Skjold 10 and 13 comes with the same guylines. You have light gray guylines on the corners and dark gray on the corners that attach to the trees. There you also have color-coded carabiners in red and green. All the guylines have reflective tracers, so they're easy to see in the dark. The guylines we are using now are made of high-strength nylon. They have a very high breaking strength. They are 2.5 millimeters in diameter. They have a slight stretch under load, which is really good because if you have a strong gust of wind, you want the guylines to stretch ever so slightly. So they help take up some of the force so you don't break any of the corners of the fabric itself. Our standard guylines can be replaced with our camo green Guyline rope that we sell separately. It's quite easy to change them out if you prefer to be a stealthy ninja. Some links down below for a video on how to do that. Guyline management is a big part of using your tarp. I would say that 90% of your setup time or usage time with a tarp is related to guylines. And I mean untangling the guylines when you take it out of the bag, fitting them to the trees, staking them down, adjusting, then readjusting, and afterwards packing them nicely together and packing them into your stuff sack, unless you're a psychopath that likes Guyline spaghetti. Don't do that. With our tarps, you'll find it very easy and enjoyable to adjust the guylines. So we have opted for the best plastic buckles that are on the market. These are quite expensive to use, but they're well worth the cost. They do not slip, they are super easy to adjust, and they use the full length of the guyline. So you can have your tent stake right here up to the corner of the tarp near the buckle, or you can have it the full length of the guyline and you have full adjustability. With a lot of other adjusters, you have a loop, which means if you have a 2 meter long guyline, you have to loop it so the shortest distance is 1 meter. We have made our very own silicone Guyline fasteners. They are our new special design. The silicone has a rubbery feel, so it has some friction, so you can pack your guylines neatly. This will hold your guylines in place and you don't get the guyline spaghetti that you're used to. One great feature is that you can also replace it if you are able to break it somehow. We still haven't been able to break any of them in testing, and we've tested them really hard. But if it were to happen, it's possible to replace it without any sewing. To sum it up, our silicone fasteners keep the guylines in place. They make using the tarp so much easier and enjoyable. Other things our Skjold tarps have in common. They both have really good stuff sacks that are very spacious, so it's easy to compress them some more if you want to. We do this mainly because it's a lot easier to stuff the tarp back inside the bag. And with the siliconized fabrics, it's really easy to do so. It's slippery and it just slides right in. The stuff sack has a separate compartment inside for the tent stakes, or tarp stakes if you will. I'll show you quickly. I'll just turn the bag inside out. So you'll find a separate compartment inside where the tent stakes live. You have 6 pieces here, and you have reinforcements everywhere. You have a double layer along the main seam here. At the bottom, where the pointy part of the tent stake is, we have added a special webbing on both sides so that you won't ever have your tent stakes poke out there. So small details again, but we think this creates a much better usage experience, and that's the way we want to do it, so we do it that way. To sum up all the common features of Skjold 10 and 13, they share the same fabric, they share the same shape and corner design, they have the same guyline adjusters and fasteners and guylines, they have the same stuff sack system and tent stakes that come along with the stuff sack. They both work with any kind of hammock. The Skjold 10 even works with our Draumr double hammock, although the Skjold 13 would give you slightly wider coverage, so we would maybe recommend that if you prefer better coverage. Now, what sets Skjold 10 and Skjold 13 apart? The Skjold 10 is obviously smaller, which also means that it is lighter. The stuff sack is slightly smaller. The cost is also lower. Apart from that, one unique feature of the Skjold 13 is that the side corners can fold inwards, creating doors. This gives you more protection from the sides and creates a cozier environment underneath the tarp. On the Skjold 10, which you see here, the corners are not really big enough to create a door on the side. Lastly, Skjold 13's added width means you need more space between the trees, whereas Skjold 10 lets you camp in slightly tighter spots. Now, which tarp is right for you? If you prefer extra coverage and can accept the slight increase in pack size, weight and price, go for Skjold 13. If you prefer a lower weight, pack size and price, and you don't really need that extra coverage, go for Skjold 10.